really happy to be here. And this festival is giving me the opportunity to connect with many of you and to learn from many of you. My name is Varoon. I'm part of a NGO in Berlin called the Tactical Technology Collective. And the focus of my work is exploring how personal data is being used as a tool for political influence. My background is in statistics and economics, and I spent the first chunk of my career working as a data scientist in Silicon Valley before moving to Berlin to devote myself to this question exclusively. I imagine that this is a question that many members of the audience are interested in. Of course, we have the second round of the very tight presidential elections coming up here in Georgia. That's on December 2nd. The Ukrainian presidential elections are happening March 31st of next year, and a bunch of other elections in the region coming up. I think everyone is very interested in talking about this topic nowadays, especially after news about Cambridge Analytica broke this past March. For anyone who may have missed that story, news broke earlier this year that data from 87 million Facebook users was allegedly harvested illegally by a company called Cambridge Analytica. Cambridge Analytica was used by the Donald Trump campaign, and through the campaign cycle, Cambridge Analytica was very outspoken about how it had developed psychometric or personality-based predictions on every single voter in the United States, and this information was then used to target ads to those voters. So if, for instance, the campaign believed that I was a neurotic person, they would target me with more fear-based messaging because that's the kind of ad that's effective on a neurotic person. And having had the opportunity to see a bit of that story unfold up close, I thought I would like to use this opportunity here today to talk about another form of political influence that I think is getting a lot less attention but deserves to be on all of our radars. And that is the political value of your location. Political campaigns in the 21st century are becoming increasingly data intensive, and the data revolution that has transformed business and marketing is also transforming politics. For any political organization interested in swaying your vote, the single most useful and important piece of data for them is information on your geolocation history. That might sound surprising, but when you think about it, I think it makes quite a bit of sense. Your geolocation history exposes your trips to the supermarket, when you hang out with your friends and family, and what concerts you go to. That might seem pretty boring and mundane on the surface, but underneath, it actually reveals not only where you go and what you do, but also what you're interested in and what you value. And for a political campaign, that's extremely valuable information. And it's precisely for that reason why campaigns are investing a lot of resources into collecting that data and to use it. And that's really the story across the board as a whole, not just with geotargeting, but with the use of personal information in political influence more generally, that the same tools and technologies that are being used to sell us shoes and vacations and lifestyles are also being used to sell us political candidates. I want to make a quick note, and first, obviously, this is a really big topic, but I think when we think about this question of personal information and political influence, there are really a few key questions that we're interested in. What are these tools and techniques? What are these technologies? How do they work? And where are they being used? And obviously, those are three huge questions, and we don't have time to answer any of them fully today, but I think we can at least take a peek. I should mention that as an American, I realize that I risk providing too many American-centric examples, but this is only because the body of evidence accessible to me as an English speaker has led me to these stories I'm about to share with you. But I don't mean in any way to suggest that these are the only places where geolocation-based techniques are being used. And in fact, I would love to work with people here to understand what's happening with respect to geolocation services, if anything, in Eastern Europe, Central Asia, and beyond. So without any further ado, I thought it would be fun to take a look back at a campaign ad from 2010. This is from a congressional race in Minnesota, and here we go. Can we get the audio on? give it another shot. Let's see. All right, one more try.
I'm Michelle Bachman,
There we
and
go.
I approve this message.
Hi, it's me, Jim, again. Remember her? It's Terrell Clark, and she's running for Congress this year. I know. It's state fair time, and you don't want to hear about politics. But while you're at the fair, you should know that Terrell Clark here voted to raise taxes on your corn dog, and your deep-fried bacon, and your beer. So if you see Terrell Clark while you're at the fair, just ask her, what's up with voting to tax my beer?
All right, seems like a bit of a silly ad, right? And it probably is. But what's interesting about this ad was that it was deployed at the time using a geofence. A geofence is a virtual perimeter around a point of interest. Here, that point of interest was the Minnesota State Fair. And as you can see, the geofence employed was this area shaded in purple. Now, when a device like a mobile phone enters a geofence, it triggers a desired action, for instance, an ad display. In this case, this political ad. And the purpose of a geofence is really to target your treatment to a particular, very precisely defined geographic area and nowhere else. If you've ever taken a flight to a different city and when you landed, turned on your phone and received a push notification from an app like Uber that said something like, "Hi, welcome to Rome, tap here to call a cab to take you from the airport," it was probably because the airport you landed at was geofenced. Uber wants to send that message only to people who are at the airport and to no one else. And a similar sort of technology was used in this political ad. Now, what I find interesting about this is that people, while they were at the fair, drinking beer and eating corn dogs and bacon, probably weren't aware that they were seeing this ad because their location had been logged and registered as being near the fair, and therefore they were seeing the ad. And the Bachman campaign did this back in 2010 by uploading the ad to YouTube and using YouTube's geofencing offerings in the service of its own candidate. A similar story can be told here with Lisa Murkowski. The building in the middle of the green area in the center of the screen is the White House. This is a map of Washington, D.C. And in early 2016, Lisa Murkowski was running for senator from Alaska. And at the time, her campaign had pitched this idea of building an 18-kilometer road in the middle of a national park in Alaska. And the federal agency in the United States, the Department of the Interior, the agency that oversees all federal parks, all national parks, opposed this plan. They didn't want to make it happen. And in response, Murkowski and her campaign ended up devising an ad that they strategically targeted via a geofence to the Department of the Interior headquarters. And as a result, Department of Interior officials browsing their news feeds at Facebook, they uploaded the ad to Facebook using Facebook's geofencing technologies, saw the ad appear over 7,000 times. And earlier this year, the Department of the Interior officially authorized the plan to go through with building this road in the middle of this national park. Ted Cruz did something similar. In May of 2015, at the Republican Jewish Coalition, Cruz and his campaign geofenced the popular Venetian Hotel in Las Vegas, and he did it precisely at that time to promote his pro-Israel stance to the event's attendees. Now, you're probably wondering how this technology works, and here's a quick, really non-technical explanation. So it basically starts off with your phone trying to make an estimate of where you are. It does this with a bunch of sources, including Wi-Fi, GPS, and cell tower triangulation, and it uses those to come up with, for example, your latitudinal and longitudinal coordinates in space. And let's say we have this example of a person who's walking towards a building that's enclosed in a geofence. Additional data is retrieved, for example, your gender and age, and especially if you're moving, your phone will make multiple attempts to get your most up-to-date location. Now, upon entering the geofence, a series of checks are done. Remember, this is someone paying for an ad that you might see, so for them to show you the ad, it needs to make business sense. And so a series of checks are done to see if it makes sense for them to serve an ad to you. So for example, are you there on the right day? Is it a weekend or is it a weekday? Are you there at the right time of day? Perhaps this is an ad for a shop, and they only want to show you the ad when the shop is open. So are you there in the morning or the evening? Are you there when the weather is right? Maybe this is an ice cream place, for example. Remember, many of these same technologies are used for political candidates, are also used for other goods and services. So how's the weather? Are you the right age, young or old, the right gender, and so on? And if all of those checks pass, then your phone requests an ad, and it does this by sending your user data and your location data to an ad exchange. This is a really fast, highly automated, real-time auction in which your phone will then request an ad from the ad server, and that ad is sent to your phone, and you see it. And from the time of firing up the from the time of firing up the app upon entering the geofence to the time you actually see the ad can take only about 200 milliseconds. So this process is really quick. This is a screenshot from this is a screenshot from a company based in the US, based in Kentucky. It's called El Toro, and it offers a different geolocation-based technology for political campaigns. As this screenshot shows, the company has been involved in over 2,000 political campaigns around the world, and it also claims to be the first company that offers a money-back guarantee to its political clients who don't achieve results that they like. I've prepared for you on the next slide one of the company's ads to give you a sense and a flavor for the services that they offer, but also a sense for maybe the kind of company they are too. There's audio on this ad, so let's give it a shot. Oh, looked like that worked. Let's see if we can get it from the beginning.
We use offline data, CRM lists, conquest lists, or direct mail lists. Real data that is proven to predict buying interest and buying habits. And we can target only those predefined households directly, saving money and resources. It's like direct mail with immediate response, a digital postman for an online world. We can even target a single household with personalized ads. True one-to-one marketing. And now, with a single click, advertisers can choose to continue their one-to-one campaign with out-of-home marketing that serves ads to your target's devices when they leave the house or office and continues serving in other cities, states, and countries. The IP targeting revolution is going global with El Toro set to expand its reach to 28 countries within the next year. Don't be left behind. We dreamed with you and evolved for you. It's time to join the IP targeting revolution.
One of the themes that's come up when doing this research on personal data and political influence has been how data and expertise in one part of the world is often being used in elections in another part of the world. And this has been the case with El Toro. In 2015, for example, they provided services to the opposition presidential candidate in Guyana who ended up winning the election. And they did it by combining voters' IP addresses to their physical addresses, as they mentioned they can do in this ad. And in doing so, they kind of bridge these online and offline worlds. And as you may have picked up in the ad itself, it looked like an ad for traditional goods or services, but in this case, they're offering those same products and services to political campaigns as well. And a lot of companies are. Here is a guide published by a company called ThinkNear. It's a mobile location specialist. And in this guide, it explains how in 2012, the Mitt Romney presidential campaign geofenced a concert in Chicago because the campaign believed the demographics of the people attending that concert were reliably pro-Romney. As you can see from the brochure's subtitle, Political Advertising, How Political Candidates Can Influence Voters Through Mobile Ads. Here is a photo from a physical brochure I picked up at a conference when I was in Washington, D.C. This one is by a company called Sabio Mobile. They're based in Los Angeles. And as you can see here, I think the second paragraph of this piece stands out to me. Our app science technology identifies the apps a voter has downloaded onto their mobile device to help determine their political leanings, associations, or passions. The next part of this brochure goes on to say, GeoStory, we are where you've been. We map millions of points of interest and venues in our platform to identify target audiences based on the places they visit. For example, retail stores, daycares, and parades. This technology includes 90-day look-back and real-time geofencing. And Sabio's competitors include even locations like city halls and parks as part of their points of interest. So if you visit one of these locations with your mobile device, your visit to that spot will be recorded and of course used later on in applications like this for political campaigns who are interested in targeting you. This is a screenshot from a company based in Nepal called Cloud Factory. This company, Cloud Factory, worked with a company based in Paris, Ligy Malepon, that was used by the Emmanuel Macron campaign last year in his presidential bid. And this title gives you a hint of what it's about. French presidential campaign rolls to victory using geospatial AI. In concert, these two companies used satellite imagery with information on past polling results, voter demographics, and socioeconomic indicators to help the Macron campaign prioritize what districts to go to and which ones were safe, so to speak. And it makes me wonder, aside from just the fact that this data is crossing borders from France to Nepal, I wonder if the French voter knows that when, for instance, the decision to hold a political rally or a speech is made, that so much neighborhood level information is used in that decision. And here are other ads. One of the other really remarkable trends that we see is that as political campaigns begin to demand services just like other companies do for other products and services, companies that usually have nothing at all to do with politics are really eager to get a piece of the action. And so a company like Snapchat, that traditionally has nothing to do with politics, has made its geofiltering and its geofencing technologies available to political clients. So here we see two examples, one from Rob Portman's 2016 senatorial campaign and one from Bernie Sanders' presidential campaign, both from 2016. Snapchat, of course, knows where people are when they use the application, and that in turn has enabled them to offer these services to campaigns who are willing to pay a lot of money to use them and to reach a really target demographic. And even services like the Weather Channel, this is the company owned by IBM. You wouldn't think about it, but a lot of people have the Weather Channel app, and they use it, of course, to see what the weather forecast is. Of course, this app ends up ingesting geolocation data. And in 2012, the Weather Channel announced a partnership with a company called JumpTap. JumpTap is an advertising firm, and together this partnership has focused on national election advertising. I think this is particularly interesting because when I see companies like Snapchat and the Weather Channel, I would never think that they're in the business of political targeting, especially based on information about where you've been, but they have a lot of money to make from doing it. So this begs the question, of course, well, what do we do with all of this, and why really should we care? Well, first, this is really the tip of the iceberg. The whole sphere of geolocation targeting and political influence is much bigger than just the few things that we've had time to explore here. But also, of course, your location is very sensitive. It reveals intimate parts about your life. And it's not difficult to imagine how technology like geofencing could be used for mass inclusion or exclusion. It could be used to encourage a whole district to vote for a political candidate. But it could also be used to encourage a whole district to not vote at all. And I think for me, one of the biggest reasons why we should care about this is because voters are not consumers, and those things are fundamentally different. Choosing what shoes to buy and choosing what political leaders to elect are not at all alike, but currently the technologies used to sell both are more or less the exact same. And I think this is particularly important for the technologists in the room. We need to be selective about the technologies we choose to build, how we design them, and also the ones that we choose to implement. Yes, it's very convenient to end up in a new city and to be able to tap our mobile phone screens and have a cab pick us up and take us to wherever we want to go. But that same technology could be used by a private company or even a government to geofence the next political protest you go to. And I think this really gets at the heart of the issue. We have elections because we choose the world that we want to live in. We choose the way we want to govern. And the way a political candidate runs a campaign is very predictive of the way in which they'll govern. A lot of people, when they see this evidence, ask, well, do these things really work? You know, can you really look at the app someone has on their phone and predict what their political leaning is? And in my personal opinion, probably not nearly as well as these companies would like us to think. These companies are good at marketing, and clearly they've found a new client among political campaigns. Bless you. But at the end of the day, I think it reveals something about the intentions of the people seeking office. What are they willing to do? What are they willing to do to achieve political power? And what does the way they run their campaign suggest about what they would do if they were elected? I also think this matters because the stakes are high. The stakes are transparency in our democratic process, trust in our democratic process, and ultimately the integrity of the democratic process and the ethics we uphold at the same time.